Okay, thank you, Wendy. Today I wanted to go through 6 steps to improve requirements. The first one is using single sentence, and there's actually several variations I'm going to discuss of doing that. Second one, looking at other requirements types, not just user stories if you're doing Agile, but there are other types of requirements that are typically omitted from people's requirements definitions. Then having a way to format or kind of save requirements or label them where they can be defined one time to avoid multiple updates. Then tracing to test cases. And then I have a list of specific words that typically get in the way of a good requirement. And then we'll discuss how to review requirements thoroughly, more than what typically people would do in Agile backlog grooming. And then time at the end for some Q&A. If we run out of time for Q&A, then you're welcome to email, text me, call me afterwards at any time with a question. So firstly, let's define a requirement. A requirement is a definition of a conditional capability needed by a user to solve a problem or achieve an objective. So for example, on my laptop right now, I have WebEx running, I have Zoom running in the background, and I have a need for them to function, perform correctly from a user perspective. So there is a set of requirements that have been defined into the systems that allow me to function and provide the material to both audiences in parallel. So the motivation of having any requirement defined is to achieve the target quicker. So I've been doing software development for 32 years, and so I recognize there are teams out there that shy away from requirements, or they like to kind of code, or they feel like they should be coding earlier than later. So I think we have really top choices of target A, B, or C. I'm probably trying to avoid target D on the far right. Target A would be where the requirements are crystal clear, which is very unlikely, but can happen in some legacy systems. Target B, more fuzzy. We have to clarify things. Target C, we know a part of the requirements, but not all the requirements. And target D, actually there is a target in there if you look closely, but this is where typically people would want to start coding maybe more rapidly than they should without having some clarity behind what they're actually building. Now, the requirement steps we're going to go through, the 6 examples, they can be applied to an Agile flow. On the bottom left, we have the backlog section of an Agile sprint. We have in the middle a waterfall where there's maybe a bigger, more defined set of requirements in the requirement spec. And then maybe on the right-hand side, a hybrid version where on the left part of the diagram, teams are collecting more requirements at the beginning to get a more holistic picture of what they're going to build. But then they're going into an iterations or Agile kind of flow on the right-hand side, where requirements are revisited and analyzed again per sprint. What we're going to discuss today can be applied to any type of life cycle or approach, these ones. So the first one is clarifying requirements by making them single sentence and realizing what happens if you don't have a single sentence, you have a paragraph that has a lot of built-in ambiguity. So the first example here is the simplest one, where a good backlog, if you're using Agile as a way to kind of store and define requirements, would be the user stories. And so a typical user story is as a person, like a user, as a purchaser on a shopping cart here, I want to add things to my shopping cart. As a purchaser, I want to select shipping and payment details. So they're typically the format. As a user, I want to do something. So what I like about user stories is they reflect the end user's need, which is what a requirement is. Of course, one of the downsides of user stories is they typically are ambiguous. If you take the one from the bottom, as a user, I want to merge multiple profiles that I own. Now, you'd want some definition in that before you start coding it. You could code and guess, but you can guess wrong too. A long time ago, I have many profiles in Microsoft, We had passports and login IDs and screen names and all kinds of stuff collected over the years. That is not a simple merge to really figure out how to do that correctly. So a one-liner may be too ambiguous to guess with going forward in coding. So let's take the idea of this one-liner. The blue paragraph is a typical poorly worded requirement that I may see in a backlog or a spec. The system should allow for a data entry of items relevant for the customer payment, or allow a user ID to be entered to charge the amount to. If an ID is used and there is insufficient customer account funds, then either request a credit increase or notify the account is overdrawn, and then flag the account as, quotes, credit overdrawn, OD, and then email a receipt of the transaction. Now, that is a typical requirement I see in industry. We know the gist of it, but it's kind of wordy. And if you look at it carefully, there are many ands and ors, and you're not sure whether the ands go with the ors, and if it's A and B, or A and B or C. And if C occurs, then you do B. You could dig into this, and from a coder developer perspective, have to guess. So I recommend we don't have a paragraph as a requirement. It's just too ambiguous. On the bottom on the left, the green table is a way to kind of break that out and make them specific and more detailed single sentences in a table format, where we can better clarify what is going on in the requirements. We would basically replace the blue with the green table. However, in this example here, there are many options that may occur, and where the payment is either made or not made, and it's not obvious exactly which conditions should apply exactly and in what situations. So the right-hand table is like a sister or a sibling to the left-hand table, where we can list the likely conditions, and there's the 4 of them here: credit card ID with funds, ID without funds, and the person accepts a credit increase on their account. And then we can list on the right-hand side of that table the different combinations, which ones are true, which ones are false, and then given the combinations that we're likely to see of true and false, we can then specify the outcome of the system. So obviously the first column, the credit card is used, that's true. Payment accepted, we flag the account as credit OD, and we email the receipt. But the third column, where we have a true and false, now we may decide that, third column is true and true. True and true ends up with we do payment, because they accept a credit increase. But the fourth one could be ambiguous. So we could decide for now that if we have an ID without funds, and we accept a credit increase as false, then we still allow payment, but we then flag the account. And even discussing that could end up with a fifth option or a fifth scenario where we actually reject the credit card increase and then.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also getting complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.